What's up, everybody? I am Chris Raybon from the Action Network, and I got Simon Hunter, Samantha Previte, and Sean Koerner with me. We're going to talk about this crazy week in NFL news. Aaron Rodgers agreed to a 4-year, $200 million extension with the Green Bay Packers. The Seahawks traded Russell Wilson and a 4th rounder to Denver, got Drew Lock, Shelby Harris, Noah Fant, a boatload of picks, and Carson Wentz goes from the Indianapolis Colts to the Washington Commanders. Let's start with the Rodgers news. Simon, what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, honestly, it does nothing really for me. It was kind of fun, exciting going into the season thinking he might leave. And again, I've been talking to people and we like, the value of the Bears and these different teams in that division, where now it kind of feels like it is what it is. Green Bay is going to win that division. Rodgers will get a top seed and eventually lose at home in the playoffs. So I feel like nothing's really changed for me at this point. But yeah, it's kind of one of those where it's nice that I'm not going to be wasting money on futures, hoping that Rodgers will go to these teams. So he's definitely saved me some money in speculation by choosing this team early on here.
Samantha, what are your thoughts on the Rodgers staying with the Pack?
Yeah, obviously it doesn't change too much since it's pretty much status quo in the NFC North, especially with Davante Adams also getting that franchise tag. So he'll have the same complement of weapons that he had last year. And obviously the Packers Super Bowl odds definitely moved with that news actually breaking. So that's an interesting sort of thing. But yeah, not too much in terms of actual tangible advice here.
John?
Yeah, so for fantasy, it's a huge boost. I was blending in some Jordan Love as a starting quarterback in my season-long projections to start, and it wasn't pretty. So now that we know it's Aaron Rodgers, we have Davante Adams back in the top 2 at wide receiver. Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon are both solid RB2 options. Robert Tonyan could sneak back in, the high-end tight end 2 discussion. Granted, his ACL surgery goes well. So, they're status quo, as everyone said. And, for sports betting, they are the team to beat in the NFC, especially with all these teams, going into rebuilding mode with the, Buccaneers, Saints, Seahawks. And we have to remember that the Packers were without, some of their blue chip players like Bakhtiari, Jair Alexander for a lot of last season. So I like them a lot this year. And I think, Simon mentioned it, that Aaron Rodgers doesn't do really good in the playoffs lately, but I do think they're a good value right now at plus 350 to win that NFC. Granted, they stay healthy.
That's absurd. I think the Packers are a terrible value. They're the top, the shortest odds. They're in cap hell. They have the 32nd salary cap space in the league. I don't see how they're able, I don't see how they're any better essentially than years past. So I guess the best argument you can make is Tom Brady is no longer in the NFC. That's fair, but I'm not with the value on the Packers. I'm kind of with Simon here. As far as fantasy, it's Rodgers, it's Davante. You're getting that. Those two still not going to have enough money to really upgrade the wide receiver room. So status quo there, but I don't like the value for Green Bay. Let's move on to the next bit of news. That was Russell Wilson. And he goes from the Seahawks, who blow everything up, to the Broncos. Simon, what do you think of this one for both teams, but more so the Broncos?
Love it. I mean, it's probably the most exciting move this offseason, in my opinion. I mean, again, we don't know what the whole Deshaun Watson news will be, what he'll deal with in court, or what will happen with that. But this was what everyone wanted. People really wanted Wilson. We know multiple teams were in on trying to get Wilson, and Denver gave up a lot, but we've seen it before. If you're just giving up nothing that will, change the season, this upcoming season, again, they're in a win now mode. The next 2 years, who really cares what Denver gave up to get Russell Wilson? I love the move personally. I look at this team and they have the pieces on defense. They've just been missing that leader on offense. They just have not had a quarterback on that team. And I mean, what is it, 7 years, 6 years? So it's been a long time since Peyton Manning threw for, 50 touchdowns that first year there. I'm just excited. I think a lot of people have counted Russ out, and we've seen it with guys like him that are very, very not confident in themselves, but this man truly believes he's the best quarterback in football. I love it. This is, to me, for fantasy and for football-wise, it's just really fun, exciting. And in that division as well, I love it. Because to me, not that it felt like a runaway with the Chiefs again, but just felt like everyone's going to be Chargers, Chiefs all preseason. Now it's going to be, any given team, any given Sunday, these teams, it's going to kind of be a toss-up who's going to win this division.
Samantha?
Yeah, what a year this last day has been in terms of news all around. But obviously the Broncos gave up a ton of draft capital there. But we won't be talking about that if it pays off, just like we didn't really talk about Matt Stafford in the end and what the Rams had to give up to get him. Obviously this is great news for the pass catchers on the Broncos: Jerry Jeudy, Courtland Sutton, Tim Patrick, Javonte Williams. Terribly bad news for Seattle. Right now it's obviously just up in the air, but DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, their values certainly are in the toilet right now. So that's super concerning in terms of fantasy.
Sean, how does this affect the Broncos receivers, and why is the best one Tim Patrick?
Oh man, you're gonna do. I'm not gonna slander Tim Patrick, but it's a huge boost for Jerry Jeudy, Courtland Sutton, and Tim Patrick. They're all viable fantasy assets now. But I think the biggest winner of the entire trade was tight end Albert Okwuegbunam, because they also got rid of Noah Fant, so he's their starting tight end, and he's very talented. So he's in my low end tight end one territory right now. Russell Wilson, you mentioned it in your great piece yesterday that Russell Wilson doesn't really have a history of, fueling tight end production, but I think this is going to be different. I think he's going to be a stud, and without Fant there, he should eat. I'm also interested to see what they do with Melvin Gordon. If they don't re-sign him, Javonte Williams will probably be a top 5 back in my model, because he's going to be a workhorse back. Plus the offense is going to be way more efficient. He's going to see more goal line opportunities. So hopefully we get top 5 Javonte next year as well.
Yeah, I really agree with that about Alberto, though. I think that, he was a guy that was playing under 50% of the snaps. Now he's a borderline tight end one in fantasy. As of right now, obviously things could change. I think this is great for the Broncos. I think they were one player away, and that was a quarterback. And quarterbacks can just change a team so much. And, looking at this team now, yes, they gave up draft capital, but they still have a little bit of cap space to play around with. And also, remember, Nathaniel Hackett's over there. And, that was a guy that Aaron Rodgers was thinking of going to Denver to be with. And he really changed that Packers offense along with Matt LaFleur. So I think that's a huge positive for them. So I think there's kind of some unknown unrealized upside here with Wilson beyond just what he's been in Seattle, if they kind of cater an offense more to his strengths. So I still think it'll be tough to kind of decipher week in, week out, like which of the 4 receivers, Jeudy, Sutton, and Patrick, Okwuegbunam, will have a good week. It'll probably be 1 or 2 a week, especially if they're as good on defense. But I think it's a great move. I like the Broncos plus 200 to win that AFC West. I also think this is great for Chargers futures, because now you're getting the Chargers at plus 400 or 4-1 to win the West. And like Simon said earlier, they would have been kind of that second team, and they would have probably got overhyped. And now everyone's going to sleep on them. But guess what? They have the NFL's most cap space. So, and a pretty good quarterback themselves. So I think the Broncos futures and the Chargers futures are really the winners here with this deal. But let's quickly talk about Carson Wentz. It just broke a few hours ago. Simon, I'll start with you. What did you think of this Wentz to the Washington Commanders move?
Shout out to the Action Network team. I thought it was hilarious. They put up the odds, actually decreased their Super Bowl odds, went from 50-1 to I think 65-1 on the movement of getting Wentz and not getting one of these other quarterbacks. So to me, it's sad, honestly, just because it's like literally this man has gone from being hyped up to being one of the top 10, top 5 quarterbacks in 2017, 2018 to now he's in that mode of this is really it, right? Like, the Commanders, there's nothing left other than this. It's like, I don't know. If Carson can do it, that's incredible. I'm happy for him. He got his money, but I've watched so much Carson Wentz. If he couldn't do last year with Frank and that offensive coordinator, now he's going to Washington, and we've just seen this offense not work. I know Sean's going to touch on it with Terry. Like, I love it for Terry and things like that, where Carson can throw a good deep ball, but man, I'd be sick to my stomach if I was a Washington fan. It's like what are we doing right now? We're paying this guy $28 million to come here and be maybe the third or fourth best quarterback in this division. If Mitch Trubisky goes to the Giants, it's like, I don't know. This is just a really gross division right now. So I don't know really what to make of it. But as I sit here right now, I'm not touching any Washington futures.
Samantha, are you just as grossed out as Simon?
Pretty grossed out. I mean, I wouldn't say Carson Wentz inspires a ton of fear for the NFC East, but I do hope for the best for him. I mean, if you think about it, the Washington has had this terrible carousel of quarterbacks for years now. I mean, there was a year where they had like 5 starting quarterbacks, and they had Taylor Heineke last year. So I believe that Wentz has to be better than Taylor Heineke at this point. I'm not going to say he's going to be great, but hopefully we'll at least keep the fantasy values of Terry McLaurin, Antonio Gibson, Logan Thomas all at where they are or better. So in the end, it's neutral, slightly positive.
What do you think, Sean? I know you wanted to talk about Terry McLaurin.
Well, we've been asking, can Terry McLaurin just get at least an average quarterback? And I think, Carson Wentz is close to that. We'll be nice and say he's average, but Terry McLaurin, he's been great in his first 3 seasons with guys like Dwayne Haskins, Kyle Allen, Alex Smith, Taylor Heineke. So, I think this is an upgrade, especially downfield. Last year, Carson Wentz, 20 plus yards downfield. He ranked 3rd in QB rating, 4th in catchable target percentage at 76%. And last year, Terry McLaurin was 4th in downfield targets, and only 48% of those were catchable, well below average. So if he just sees a few more catchable balls downfield, that's going to be huge for fantasy. So I think he could sneak back in that low end, wide receiver 1 range. So while it isn't too exciting, it's Carson Wentz, I think it does help boost McLaurin's ceiling.
Yeah, I mean, you would like to think so. I don't really have any trust in Carson Wentz. At this point, I don't think it moves the needle. I think it's the same thing as having Ryan Fitzpatrick or Taylor Heineke. Maybe he'll throw a little more accurate to McLaurin, but McLaurin's going to eat either way. It's not like they really have that many other options. I do think it's dope that we get to see Jalen Hurts versus Carson Wentz twice a year now, at least for this year. If Wentz actually holds on to that job.
Speaking of Ryan Fitzpatrick,
that's very true.
Just speaking of Ryan Fitzpatrick, we only got to see that connection for like 2 plays last year. So
yeah, and he still might be better than Carson Wentz. So
right.
I don't like it. I mean, Washington's 4-1 to win the NFC East. The Eagles are 4-1. I think it's kind of wild that they're both tied. I think the Eagles are the better team. If I had to pick someone to upset Dallas here. And also, I mean, Washington had a decent amount of cap space before this. I think that's going to go down a little. So I think the Eagles are also better equipped to kind of improve their roster. And I think they have the better quarterback. So if I'm looking at the market, that's really the only thing I could, think of to kind of take advantage of right now is just if you're kind of between the Eagles and the Commanders, I go Eagles, and the market's kind of valuing them the same right now. So that is going to wrap it up with a crazy couple of days of news in the NFL. We'll be back this season to break down free agency, trades, and the draft. For Simon Hunter, Sean Koerner, Samantha Previte, I am Chris Raybon. For all the latest in NFL news, be sure to check out the Action Network app and actionnetwork.com. Let's get this money.